Nania is a cheater and she does this and she did that. And then all of a sudden the whole game started knowing that, or thinking that I cheated and I did this for the realm and etc. So I'm getting a hold of Morris, and Morris is getting frustrated with me, obviously. And by that time, I got a hold of Leo, and Leo has no clue what's going on. So Leo jumps in and he's like, what's going on? And then all of a sudden, bam, Leo takes over the whole conversation with Morris, and I'm sort of pushed out to the side. And I'm like, what's going on here? So that I have Leo and Zian sort of ganging up on me, and Leo or Morris decides to say, well, that's it. Everybody's getting new staff members. Everybody. We're going to start over. And that was it. I came back with Tarpia. I think that was her name. And they gave me quest designer or something, quest artist or something. And I was so upset. I was like, what? You're actually demoting me now? I was actually in tears. I was crying, literally. I was so sad from all of this. After all the work that I had just done, and Morris is actually believing all of these people. And I'm like, well, I never even told anyone who I am. And here's Zian. I mean, everybody knows who her player character, and Morris actually says, well, so? And I'm like, what? I was so disgusted. And so I hang out for a while as Tarpia, and I'm really not doing anything but just sitting in my staff room, just sort of, hanging my head down, going, now what? And then all of a sudden, Leo starts talking about removing Cade. And I had it, because I was like, remove Cade? It's like my favorite area in the whole entire bloody game. And, because I use Cade as sort of my getaway thing, so people don't bug me. And I don't have to do idols. I can sort of do my own thing in Cade. A good excuse. Oh, sorry, I missed the boat. I can't get over there. So that was sort of my thing, and well, that was it. 2004, I just quit, removed, just gone. And I couldn't believe that all went down from like that. I mean, it was the hardest thing. It took years. This is the first time since 2004 I'm actually talking about it. I literally shut off AIM. I shut off my whole world from DFC. I completely ignored all the friends I made, everything. So yeah, this is because I was just so hurt. How could people call me cheaters? I'm not a cheater. I don't do that. I'm the most honest, transparent person you could probably meet. And then Morris had said, one of the last things he said was, look, I'm not going to take any of this staff, drama. There's no politics. And if there's any staff drama, I'm shutting down this game. That's it. And he had said that he had the server and he was hosting it and he had all the say. Brian had no involvement with it anymore, and nobody else at Mythic had any involvement with it anymore. He was doing it all. And he would not invest any more money into it because he was paying for it, he said. And I know right well that that's what happened. So it all started with me getting rid of Anis's, and I feel like it just made a domino effect to the whole end of the game. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, thank you. We do appreciate it. Sharing with us kind of the intimate details of very tumultuous couple of years for all of us for very different reasons, for sure. And you mentioned there, just briefly about Cade. So I guess Leo presented the idea of removing it entirely, or they had actually taken steps to actually limit access to it or something like that. Like, what is that exactly?
I have no clue. So at the end, did they still have Cade?
Well, I mean, to my knowledge, which is limited, the only difference that I could recall is that there was free for all Cade in the early days, and then they just kind of rotated it, between the realms, and then there were at times the boats would be down, but I think as a player, especially myself, was kind of oblivious to a lot of kind of the major workings going on behind the scenes. It seemed that nothing was really out of the ordinary.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll see in my logs in my last few days there, you'll see that Leo starts talking about removing Cade, and then they get into talking about what they're going to replace with it, and new lands and etc. Split it up between the realms, and um, yeah. But it was, I mean, it was really. It sounded like it was a go. I mean, it was like that. Okay, this is a definite. This is what we're doing. We're shutting down Cade. We're doing this and this, and I'm like, what? No, I'm out. I'm gone. I can't do this anymore. Sorry, and I left. But I just assumed that. I mean, because he was so serious about it, that well, Cade was no more. Well, good to know.
Very interesting indeed. So let me see. I do have just a few questions left here that I've kind of pre-prepared. So again, if you guys have any questions you'd like to ask Nania, feel free to type at @FlowandBrainy in the chat, and chime in, ask anything you'd like. I see we have a comment here saying Gemax remembers them talking about shutting down Cade due to cross-realm trading. Does that ring a bell at all?
No, I think it wasn't really about that. It was, I think it was mainly about database use and space for the land development. There wasn't really anything left, so they wanted to really expand the realms a little bit. I think is the whole premise behind that.
Okay, so and then I guess to kind of go over your, kind of the end days, did you feel that was there anybody else that was kind of on your side? Was there any staff member where you could really kind of confide in, who else was there that was, good, if you will?
Nobody really. I mean, other than, I really thought Leo was on my side until he sort of took everything from me, sort of speak, I guess. But there was absolutely no one. I felt so lonely. I couldn't talk to. I was still keeping that silence thing. Um, I think there was very few. There was maybe two. I think Nix was one of them that I talked to a little bit at the end on AIM, and really told them a little bit about my story. But I think once the Leo Ziana thing came out and Ziana was spreading rumors that I was a cheater, then I got the feeling through my aims that people just didn't trust me and didn't want to have anything to do with me at the time, and I couldn't really I couldn't really do anything about it, and I really wished that there was like a Skype or something back then, or anything that I could actually speak my mind, because typing all in those silly AIM chats and in game chat was horrid. I mean, it was just terrible. You couldn't really express yourselves that well. And I was so lonely. I'm probably the loneliest person on the internet.
Well, no longer, hopefully. we'll all be your buddy moving forward for sure. So I guess we'll change the gears a little bit more again. Were there any kind of going back to the staff tools that we kind of talked about before?
It's almost done.
What is your opinion on staff tools in a game for in a game like Darkness Falls. And in specific, there's basically two ideas that I'm presenting here. One is to have like an enhanced, user interface that has lots of dialogue, windows that pop up, to help kind of select things and look at menus and kind of gather, create an item, for example, or to create a quest. Would you prefer something like that, or did you enjoy kind of the command-based editing that you did, at least inside the game?
I didn't really mind the command base. I mean, because I used shortcuts for all of them, so it was pretty simple. I mean, it was actually very simple, and all you had to do was just remember the commands or what they meant, and I basically had sort of a notebook that I kept for that, and but I mean, a neat take on that, maybe some quick different UI for that would be an interesting take on that for sure. Just something just for quick reference, for something quick, like very for the commands that you would use all the time. Like we would use jump all the time, like whenever we would have to jump to players, right?
And then how about for things like fixing objects, that you had mentioned that it was difficult to change, a climb to a jump or vice versa. Was that something that you spent a lot of time on, or no?
Fixing things? Oh yeah, there was constantly fixing things. I mean, that took the majority of the time, and the most frustrating was updating like the wolf form or whatever else I had to do. Evil, I had to do something for Vamps, didn't I? Or cleaning rooms, or for example, things would get ghosted. Oh, always ghosted in the rooms. So when we'd go in on our staff character, we'd see all of these ghosted objects, which would make things an issue. For example, when like catapults or whatnot, and whenever you would try to fire them, they would glitch out, and we would have issues with that. So we'd have to go into the rooms and make sure, because remember there was a room limit of items that would drop. So we would have to go through room by room and clean them up. Usually it was around your dragon area or whatever little area, and then there was usually around the docks. Usually were the worst, or usually around the shrines at times. You'd go around, but a lot of times you'd have to clean, and then we'd have to run like clean sweeps all the time. So clean sweeps are we'd have to go through the all the whole room database and clean it. It was just usually at one command, and it would clean everything off the ground. So that would be really lousy if someone had just died, and that's why we would put a warning up, or at least the staffers should have put a warning up, like, okay, 5 minutes, clean sweep, whatever. And because if we didn't do the clean sweeps, that's where things would get ghosted. And so if staff, and we would have to do a clean sweep, should have been done daily, like every shift. So if, for example, if no other staff was on, or no staff was on for days, well, what do you think would happen to the lands, right? All these glitchy little things kept happening.
Right.
So that's what, and it was always fixing things. So people would, their items would glitch out, or have to do their guild weapon, give them, upgrade that, or give that to them, or, I mean, it was non-stop. And you know what, a UI for that kind of crappy stuff would be great.
I agree, absolutely. It sounds like it was quite a mess sometimes. Let's see, I think I have one more here, suggested from Devilich here.